if a leader's responsibility and what leaders actually do is to help people, teams, and organizations change, that first element is casting a compelling vision, a picture of a preferred future. The next step is to get a clear picture of the present reality. How are we going to know where we're going to go and how we're going to get there if we don't know where we are? In the same way, a GPS system isn't going to help you get to a destination unless it knows where you are. As leaders, we can't help achieve a vision or get to a different reality or different circumstance if we don't know the present circumstance, if we don't have really great clarity on what it is the current situation looks like. And there's a great phrase that carries me kind of through my leadership and as I engage leaders and organizations, and it's always one of the kind of punch you in the face statements that is so simple, but it provides a lot of clarity and sobriety as we think about this idea of change and identifying the present reality. And it's this: it says every organization is perfectly positioned to achieve what it is currently achieving. I'll say it again. Every person, team, organization, whatever you want to put in there, is perfectly positioned to achieve what it is currently achieving. If we want a different result, we have to do something differently. This seems so basic, but in the leadership game, the process of changing something sometimes becomes so daunting. Sometimes we see this incredible picture of the future, but we don't know how to get there. And we don't know what needs to change. Or we know, but we haven't invited people into the process to figure out how we're actually going to go about changing it. And so if your organization, your team, even your own leadership is perfectly positioned to achieve what it's currently achieving, the question is, how do I do something differently? How do I assess what needs to change? And this is one of the key traps of leadership, is that many times we, as we assess what needs to change, we in the leadership seat, whether we're in the lead chair, the second chair, the fifth chair, wherever we fall in the leadership hierarchy, we usually think that we have all the right answers. And that if we just we just say, here's what needs to change, here's what currently exists, and we're going to make our way to this vision. I'm going to tell everybody what to do, and we're going to achieve that vision. That's where we get it wrong. Because, and you know this, if you are one person, you are one leader from one perspective, and even though you may be able to kind of see the whole organization, you can see the balance sheet, you can see how many people work for you, you can see how the people's engagement in the environments you're creating or the products you're selling. You can see all that stuff. That doesn't mean you know the current reality and the current state of your teams, your individuals, and your organization. So how do we identify what we're going to do differently if we want a different result? The answer to this is a simple word. It is collaboration. We embrace the notion that our perspective is limited and that we need to invite other people's perspectives into the conversation to identify what we need to do differently. And collaboration is different than coordination and cooperation. There are different ways we can approach it, but collaboration is the deepest level of engagement with the people in our organization to help us identify what we're going to do differently. If I'm simply going to coordinate with people, I'm just going to essentially align my efforts to achieve a common task. And that's not going to get it done for us. You can think of this in terms of, let's say you're going to organize a community cleanup day around the city. Essentially, if you're only going to coordinate with people, you can say, hey, this organization, this organization, this organization, you're going to take this part of the town, you're going to take this part of the town, you're going to take this part of the town, we're all going to clean up. We're coordinating our efforts to achieve a common task. You've coordinated. But merely coordinating is not going to help us get a clear picture of the current reality. You could go a next level and say we're going to cooperate together. Well, cooperating is a little bit different, a little deeper level of engagement where we're doing the same thing. We're aligning our efforts to achieve a common goal, but there's a little bit of submission to rules and willingness to kind of comply to some benchmarks and standards. That would look like in the community cleanup, if I have an organization and I'm going to participate, They say, hey, you got to provide 2 people to come to the registration table, and then you got to provide 2 people to drive the garbage truck around, and you have to wear these t-shirts that match everybody else. That's a willing compliance to say we're going to cooperate together, but I'm still really responsible for my own area to clean up the city. Collaboration is where we ultimately need to get as leaders to help provide a clear picture of the current reality. Now, collaboration is working together for a common goal, but it usually involves some sort of intellectual endeavor. It involves an exchange of ideas, sharing and debating ideas. And if I was going to do a community cleanup, collaboration really looks even drastically different in that before we even land on a community cleanup being the best course of action, we get all of our organizations together and we talk about what's the best way we can serve our city. Because we all want to serve our city. We have an idea for the vision of our city. What's the best way we can do that? And we collaborate and share ideas, and we might come up with a community cleanup day, or we might come up with something completely different. But we are inviting people into the process of generating the what and the why and where we're going to go. Ultimately, we're inviting other people to answer the question, what are we going to do differently? We are inviting them in to provide clarity because we realize as leaders, we don't have all the answers. We have an incomplete view of the current reality. And so if we're aiming for collaboration, we are aiming for an unfiltered, constructive debate around ideas. Now, this is an important element in the success of many organizations. Lots of people have done research on this. One of them is this organization, this consulting firm called Forrest & Sullivan. They actually did some research on saying, well, how important is collaboration in helping an organization or a team achieve what they really want to achieve? And they said, through the process of collaboration, they saw a 30% increase in innovation. And they also saw the quality of the products that they created and that were produced increased by 34%, a third. And so you may not be selling products, you may not be marketing new inventions, but the principle is this. If you invite collaboration, if you invite more voices to the table around and have a conversation of unfiltered, constructive debate around ideas, the principle is this. You're going to get better ideas and you're going to get better implementation. And so if we as leaders are aiming to identify with maximum clarity the reality of the current state, we have to invite other people to collaborate and to provide insight on what that current state looks like. And here's where holistic health really comes into play in this process. Is because if you are a leader and you're going to invite people to have an unfiltered, constructive debate around ideas, that requires significant levels of trust. You are doing a couple of things as you invite this process. The first thing is you're the leader who's ultimately responsible for the outcomes of your team, your individuals, and your organization. You're the steward of the vision that God has given you. And if you are going to invite people, you have to let go of control of what that decision of where we're going to go might be. You don't get to just dictate what the plan is. You are inviting people into that process. Simultaneously, you are demonstrating high levels of vulnerability because as you come in there, you might have experienced this as a leader. Anytime you get a little feedback loop, you do some debrief, there's usually something that comes up where they say, well, why did we do this? Why are we doing this? This is broken. Well, as the leader who's ultimately responsible for all these things, you're probably going to internalize that a little bit. You're going to say, yep, that's on me. That's on me. The level of vulnerability that we are demonstrating by inviting people into identifying the picture of the current reality is through the roof. And if you're going to navigate, you're going to invite people who may not actually be healthy themselves. You're going to invite them into a collaborative process where you are just compounding potentially the unhealthy interactions you have with people as you're navigating this collaborative process. So in this process, you're really doing three things. You're letting go control of your organization to a certain extent. You are opening yourself up to arrows, piercing arrows to your leadership heart of how things are currently going and why they're going wrongly in many cases. And you are inviting potentially unhealthy people into a long, arduous process of working together and collaborating around ideas. And if you're not healthy in this whole process, in any one of these kind of categories or actions, let alone all three put together, then it's going to be impossible to demonstrate the levels of trust and vulnerability necessary to get the results that we need. And so if we're not healthy in this process, our unhealth is going to leak all over the place. We're going to be defensive. We're going to immediately respond to everything. Well, why did we do it like this? Well, let me tell you why we did it like this. You're going to shut down conversation because you give the why behind the what. You're going to say, well, that person doesn't know what they're talking about. I'm not going to listen to them because I've seen their performance review. They don't have any idea what they're talking about. Right? We're going to get defensive. We're going to put up our walls, and we might even use it as a potential tool for leadership kind of manipulation or bias towards people as they navigate this process. So ultimately, what we're doing in this collaboration process is we are aiming to build collective trust. Collective trust based on vulnerability. And building collective trust based on vulnerability, that's going to get us a clear picture of the present reality. While doing this while we're healthy is very, very hard. While doing this while we're unhealthy is impossible.